They're about being free.
I'm sailing right behind, just like a bridge over troubled waters. I will ease your mind.
I wrote Bridge Over Troubled Water for Artie's voice. Actually, I wrote it and said, this is not, I won't be able to sing this one. I think Artie will have to sing this.
And here it goes. When you're weary.
When his performance of it would produce this incredible reaction, and I would be standing in the wings, and Artie would be taking his bow, I would think, author.
I will drive them all.
But he did a great job of singing, and it still stands up to this day.
I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough.
When I grew up, it was just by rote that I thought, whatever they're doing, don't do that. That's been covered. That's boring ground. Imagine that you're going to be a rock and roll singer and you're going to have your own record on the radio. No one in the neighborhood's thinking that way, except one other person, 3 blocks away.
He got a guitar, and, you know, I'm with this stuff, you know. And he's like into, you know.
He knew that being the singer was a key to popularity, and that the girls were making a fuss over me, and that I had this angel's image as a singer. And I would sing in the synagogue, and Paul says that it gave him the idea of being a singer, that this was sort of a ticket to go someplace.
Hey, schoolgirl in the second row.
When he was 16 years old, he had a hit record with Artie.
And Dick Clark is interviewing us, and we are nervous. This is new stuff. Where am I from? I'm from Forest Hills. Where are you from, Paul? I'm from Macon, Georgia.
And he went on American Bandstand, and he was amazing.
This is our first career, our little Tom and Jerry career. Those were our names then. We're there with Dick Clark on the set. And Paul's completely serious with a southern accent. He's from Macon, Georgia. At that moment on camera, I realized, my friend here is wild. He'll say anything. Now that he's got his opportunity to be a star, he ain't Paul Simon anymore. He's this guy from Macon, Georgia.
The first time I heard Elvis Presley, I was in the back seat of my parents' car. The announcer said, wherever he sings, there are riots. He said, his name is Elvis Presley. There was nobody named Elvis anywhere in the vicinity of Queens, you know, that I knew of.
Paul was very much taken with Elvis, as any red-blooded kid would be.
And he combed his hair like Elvis Presley.
Spit curl hanging down.
The buttons open and the collar up and the belt. You wore your belt, was like worn like this far down from the top of the pants. But the presence of my dad as a musician is just indisputable. He played on a bunch of records, the early records, with my brother. Paul was smitten by rock and roll. He was the perfect candidate. He loved it. I mean, he inhaled it.
And it's letting in now, and all the music is seeping through.
A schoolgirl brought us into this show where we were the only white act on the show at the Hartford State Theater. The opening act was Little Joe and the Thrillers, who sang Peanuts. 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 Thurston Harris sang Little Bitty Pretty One. These were hits then, and that was part of that lineup, and Laverne Baker was on the show, and we were the middle-class white act that came on with our songs. When I met Paul, I said, well, here's the turned-on kid in the neighborhood. This is the guy with the energy and the humor and the sense that life is more than just this neighborhood.
Fox rolling in off the East River bank like a shroud. It covers Bleecker Street, fills the alleys where men sleep, hides the shepherd.
Well, Artie was a great enthusiast, so he encouraged me to write.
We did give each other a quality that each of us wanted from the other, as if we were trying to make one perfect person together.
I mean, I think he just gave me the confidence that I probably wouldn't have had by myself. I think I would have been shy to do that without Artie.
I guess he was using my popularity as part of who he was. But I was using his drive to get someplace, because I'm more of a laid-back guy and always was. I don't think I would have had the career I had if it weren't for the engine that Paul Simon is.
At this point, I had moved on to a job working for a music publisher. And my job was to try and take the songs in their catalog and get artists to record them.
And at Columbia Records was Tom Wilson, who had just recorded Bob Dylan in a new electrified way. Well, Paul showed him the E.B. Marks songs. Then he said, I write my own songs, let me show them to you. Tom says they're great.
So I said, well, actually, I sing with another guy, and
I'll bring them down. You'll like the songs even better when you hear how we do them.
He said, yeah, I would like to hear you sing.
And they signed us.
And tonight will be all I have left to recall.
Roy Halley was the engineer who did the audition for us. He was our engineer and our friend and our bounce, and eventually became our co-producer.
They never could give us a name. Nobody could ever figure out what to call this group. So by default, we were our real last names.
It was the first time that any showbiz stars had a name like Garfunkel. It was a small but exciting thing when it happened.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you.
I remember the night that I heard Sounds of Silence for the first time. I'll never forget it. He called me in, he said, listen to this, and he starts to sing it, and it was a totally different style. It was obviously the start of his folk stuff, and ends of the words of the prophets are written on subway walls and tenement halls. Whoa!
Within the sound of silence.
I doubt that I would have written a song like The Sound of Silence had Bob Dylan not broken that ground and made it possible to write a song about subject matter that was, not teenage life, teenage love, teenage whatever.
I turn my collar to the cold and damp.
After it was out about a year and already considered dead, a radio station in Gainesville, Florida began to get requests for the song The Sound of Silence.
So that filters its way back to the home office in New York, and during that summer of '65, they overdub electrified instruments on that record. Musicians are brought in, and we know nothing of it.
We were sitting in the car, smoking, and The Sound of Silence came on, and they said, #1 record, The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. We were just sitting there at night. We didn't have anything to do. And Artie turned to me and he said, those guys must be having so much fun.
And the people bow and pray to the neon god they made. And the sign flash had its warning in the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, the tenement halls, whispering the sounds of silence.
When the record's #1, you go, I am now going to be living a different life.
Some songs you try and express yourself emotionally. Those are different songs for me. And they express what I feel, and they relieve tensions that I feel when I express them. Tonight I'll sing my songs again, I'll play the game and pretend. But all my words come back
back to me in shades of mediocrity, like emptiness in harmony. I need someone to comfort me.
In the years of Simon and Garfunkel, Paul was very busy suffering. Maybe it was a pose he played, but Simon and Garfunkel and the fun of making it did not give him great fun.
Home, where my thoughts escaping, home, where my music's playing, home, where my love lies waiting silently for me, silently for me.
We had very good years in 65, 6, 7, 8. At 69, I think we had been traveling so much together and we were so forced to be together through the power of business. It began to tell on our friendship, which was always true. It always was what it is. We would never let ourselves be forced into a friendship because it works or anything. So because it was always either true or nothing, it began to be abrasive, to be so forced together and tour.
All right, then start on the lower note.
Don't. Just let me get the chords first before I get the note. You sing it and get them both parts in your head, and then I'll learn it. We had a difficult time finding common ground. But the reason that we broke up was just we were kids and we didn't think it was a big deal to break up. So we broke up.
So long, Frank Lloyd Wright.
The problems with Artie are, I think, working out the last bit of adolescence, competitiveness, or whatever that rivalry. So when it doesn't work on a pretty childish level. You always sing this.
No, I sing it off mic to the show.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm always waiting to hear me play my last thing.
And I'm on top of you.
Yeah, here we go.
It's kind of oblivious to your last leg. I always think, well, that's the guitar. It's doing. You're thinking of that? It's doing its part. You're singing with me.
The song is
Forget about the
essentially
guitar.
over now. I'm just making my last little comments.
Oh, you're gonna have to pick sooner or later. Is it me or the guitar?
Are you going to Scarborough Fair? It feels low. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
It's only a half tone. Had we not broken up for personal reasons, we would have broken up for musical reasons. But it's a very special period when you're working together and you agree, and the two people's ideas are better than one. It's special, and it lasts for a certain period of time, then it goes away. That's it. It doesn't come back.